Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV. Well, it's lunchtime and I've just been to have a drink at the pub. There's a little pub around the corner. I mean, facilities are a lot better here than they were at Leeds. But basically, the last speaker was DavID Griffin, and well, he was very, very interesting. I mean, do you remember we talked about Ludwig Wittgenstein? We mentioned him. Well, he got DavID Griffin went. Well, we were talking about how he's into language and stuff like this, and David was talking about the extraterrestrial influence on language, and he mentioned Wittgenstein. He mentioned this great hospital porter, who was also a philosopher in his spare time, but he was in about language and stuff like that. And well, I've never heard David do. Whoop! Thanks, Richard. Richard's here with me.
Oi, oi.
They like that T-shirt, brilliant T-shirt.
Yeah, we've all seen it before on HPANWO.
Yes, we have. Yeah, nice one, isn't it? You have to go to you have to do a conference yourself one day.
Maybe. I think I'll have to write something first that come out with something outrageously unbelievable.
Anyway, yeah, he talks about all kinds of interesting stuff to do, rather like the things Graham Hancock goes on. Hang on, I've got it on Zoom. That's it. That's better. It's kind of like the things Graham Hancock talks about in terms of the kind of bicameral mind and the what was it? Yeah, about how
ayahuasca and psychedelics open up the pineal gland at different experiences. He also talked about something very interesting, which how the ET language had interfaced with humans. So yeah, he mentioned Mike Oram, who's going to be speaking a bit later on, and Dan Sherman again, who's going to be speaking later on, how they use like symbols in like a kind of telepathic way to interface with ETs. But like I say, it's a whole subject in itself.
But it's rather, if you ever read Graham Hancock's book Supernatural, I mean, he talks about this, and the more and more I look into this, the more and more I'm seeing that the aliens and UFO phenomenon is linked to others. It's linked to these other things. I mean, there's an artist called Pablo Amaringo, who's a Peruvian shaman, and he's painted pictures of UFOs and greys, even though he doesn't come from a Western mindset. He comes from a native Amazonian mindset. So I'm thinking that there's in some ways these substances, ayahuasca, DMT, ibogaine, psilocybin, these various drugs, as they're called, they're Class A drugs in this country. Actually, you can't
they
take
are.
them.
I mean, LSD is a category A drug. You go to jail for 5 to 10 years, I think, if you're caught selling it. So yeah, it's serious stuff. They don't want you to have it.
Yeah, that's right.
They really don't.
Well, I mean, I've obviously. I think the government, I've said this before and I say it again, the government are terrified of any kind of spiritual enlightenment on our part. And I think the biggest secret they want to keep is this kind of spiritual reality. And so I think that's why they're against LSD. And now, I'm not advocating the willy-nilly use of drugs, little disclaimer there, you know. But there's no doubt that these drugs, if used sensibly, even these highly illegal ones, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, for saying it, but it's true. Even these illegal ones, if you use them sensibly, in a sensibly controlled environment, and this includes even things such as cannabis and you know, not Class A drugs, and psilocybin as well, which is, well, it's technically illegal, but it's unenforceable because it's so common.
Psilocybin comes from mushrooms which grow from the floor. So what they're going to do, illegalise the grass.
Exactly.
It's the next thing on the agenda, isn't it?
Well, don't give them ideas.
I can definitely see it coming.
Maybe they'll
legalise the grass.
Funny enough, they do go in spray areas where there's large amounts of magic mushrooms, but the magic mushrooms are quite common. They're quite common species, like Liberty Cap, for instance, which is very common. I mean, if you could probably find some in your back garden actually, and you'd certainly find some in your local park or forest. And but be careful what you eat, because obviously some mushrooms are highly toxic as well.
Get your Ray Mears book out before you start eating.
Make sure you get the right one. Be absolutely certain you get the right one. Get hold of someone who knows what they're doing if you don't know yourself. But I mean, ayahuasca is an amazing brew because it's the most powerful of all these drugs, and it's a traditional Amazonian brew, which is amazingly its active ingredient is DMT, which of course you can get DMT, you can smoke it, and it can be injected. Like Rick Strassman injected it into his subjects. If you read Graham Hancock's books, and Rick Strassman has actually written his own book where he talks about the experiments he did on people with DMT and about how they had encounters with alien-like beings when they were on these drugs. They weren't abducted from their bed, but their sense of consciousness altered. creating this experience. Now, ayahuasca, amazingly, is made from leaves called Psychotria viridis, which contains vast amounts of DMT. The thing is, though, if you boil those up and drink them, you could drink 100 gallons on them, they had no effect on you. And the reason is there's something in your stomach called monoamine
which is an enzyme.
Monoamine oxidase, which destroys DMT when you digest it. Basically, when you digest it, it destroys it.
Yeah, the minute it hits your stomach as well,
it's gone.
It's like, no, it falls down the butt, ow, it's gone.
But there's a substance there's a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, isn't there?
Yes.
And that comes from a vine, it can be found in a vine that also grows in the Amazon called Banisteropsis capi.
I'm glad you remembered the name.
Yeah, it's I don't know where I get all this information. I mean, maybe Miles is right. I am an anorak. But basically, there's up to 1/3 plant species in the Amazon. Yeah, they've managed to combine these two. Right now, the odds of that, someone calculated it was several trillion to 1. The odds of doing that by chance. And you can imagine if you were experimenting with it, it would take you millions and millions of years to do it. But they have done it. They've managed to find out. Now, how did they know? It's a good question.
It certainly is a good question. Either we've been around for a lot longer and they went through a lot of trial and error, like you say, through a billion years or such, or somebody told them what to do, which is more believable than...
Yeah.
Although, don't take that comment too seriously. Anything's believable in this day and age.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, it could be that the Amazonian shamans, maybe thousands of years ago, had an experience through another method of psychic consciousness altering state, which provided the ingredients, the way to use ayahuasca. But I mean, I wouldn't take. Thing is, I mean, I wouldn't actually take ayahuasca unless I'd done the full training, the shamanic training, which takes a whole week. Which is why people who go to the Amazon have to go through this process. Now, there's a few more things I want to say about David Griffin. I think I've covered. Thing is, I think they're all going in now. I think
they might be drawing the raffle, you know.
Oh, right,
really
yeah.
Want to win that cake.
Yeah. We've got tickets. I haven't got any tickets, but you got some, mate. Yeah, I hope you get that nice cake.
At the door there.
Well, I'm gonna. I'll see. I might not bother now, actually. But David Griffin's lecture, unfortunately, was interrupted several times, wasn't it?
By a helicopter and a rainstorm.
We had a rainstorm which pummeled down on the roof, and the roof is very thin, as you can see. It's kind of corrugated plastic, then a bloody helicopter decided to station itself above the thing, and I felt sorry for David, because David, he's an interesting guy, he's a genuine guy, and he does these podcasts and things, and this is the first time I've heard him talk about this before, and I just thought, shame, it couldn't be helped. It was no one's fault. It just happened. Okay, well, I'll see you later. Who's up next, Richard? Is it the French guy, isn't it? It's that French bloke.
It is. Let's tell you, it's Denis Denissia, presence, UFOs, crop circles and exo-civilizations.
Oh, Denis Denissia.
Right up our
Oh là là, Exopolitics. Très bien, beaucoup. Right, I'll see you later. We've got to go and see that old frog now. Whatever his name is, the froggy. Hospital ports, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order.